I couldn't stay there anymore. It was literally, I felt like I was going down a very dark path that I could not see myself coming out of.
So Stu, for you, I think about so you were in the, gun industry and working in a gun shop, and then you're wholesaling or retail, selling guns and doing that. And then you're seeing how kind of toxic that was and going, okay, God, you're calling me to something else. I'm guessing you didn't think that was the green industry, which I love that it's called the green industry landscape. I bet it's
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, that's probably not what you thought he was calling you to. So, and you can see the benefit of removing God's call from your day job, right? Because now you can honor God whether you're selling guns. Some people may disagree, but whether you're selling guns or you are, mowing grass, how do I treat people? How do I live out that? And so again, you were pointing to, God is using all of that. And I'm sure there's somebody listening right now that's going, man, I hate the job I'm currently in. Okay, that may be. I feel like God's calling me to something else. Yeah, that may be. But think through, how can you grow where you're planted? And I'm not telling you not to leave a toxic environment or things like that, but detach God's call, his call for your life, from your employment. It's two different things.
You and I have talked about this quite a bit with regard to, me working in the firearm industry and the reason why I felt the need to leave there. And probably is a good thing to go ahead and share. My soul more or less felt like it was being ripped in two when I was working in the firearm industry towards the end of it. And it was really because I saw kind of this rise where people were claiming, to be Christians, and they, might very well be, but they were putting their patriotism and other things well above God. And, I have a hard time believing that you can claim to be a follower of Christ if you have very much a strong sense of hatred or, vile intentions and stuff in your heart towards another group of people. And so I couldn't stay there anymore. It was literally, I felt like I was going down a very dark path that I could not see myself coming out of. So that's why I left.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough. And our world is becoming increasingly polarized. And recently I was introduced to behavioral therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy. And what it does is it tries to get rid of the a but statement, and what it introduces an and statement. So you can hold two opposing thoughts, right? That I disagree with their point of view and I still love them as a Christian, right? That they act like this and they're still Christians. And that's a very hard thing to do, but we have to embrace that more and more. Again, if God is using everything, it means he's going to use even the people that we would view as enemies. Well, then God's using them to grow you. But if they're enemies, we're called to turn the other cheek and love our enemies. And if they're brothers in Christ, we're told to bear one another's burdens and love them. We don't have an out when it comes to enemies. There's no out for Christians. Well, I hate them. And they're so different from me. And so we got to be careful with that and demonizing another side because they think different than us, because God is using all of it, the providential call, all of it. He's contemplated us from eternity. Think about that. I can't. It's all eternity. I don't know how to fathom that he's contemplated us and what we're doing. And so how do we increasingly make our lives not so polarized and more accepting of others around us that may think differently, especially as you get out of the United States and just realize how the universal church is just so different and so unconcerned by some of the things that concern us as the American church. And it really would change your perspective. And so I'm glad you're able to get out of that industry and find something new. That again was never something you thought, but you're not dishonoring God by mowing lawns, and you haven't missed your call because you're dropping mulch. right? You get to love guys on your crew. You get to lead guys. You get to have those conversations when they pop up. And we talked about that, I think, last episode of like, man, showing up on time, staying late, giving your best. Those things will win people over more than anything, more than any sermon you'd ever preach in front of 1,000 people.
Well, not just that. It was, I don't hide the fact that I'm a Christian at work. I'm not beating it over somebody's head. I'm not saying, hey, you need to believe what I'm believing. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I prioritize, doing things like going to men's challenge. Why are you taking off work early? Well, me and 200 guys from church are getting together this weekend. Oh, well, okay, it sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
I let it be known, like, hey, this is what I prioritize, and I tell them, like, if you ever want to have a conversation about it, like, I'm a Christian, this is what I believe. If you want to have a conversation about it sometime, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations with several of the guys that I work with.
Yeah.
Just because, they'll ask me questions.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'll answer.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect segue, like, into our second call that we want to talk about is the circumstantial call of God. And this is the call by where, like, we're going to say yes to God and respond to God in whatever circumstances we find ourselves in. So, like, whether you're in the firearm industry or you're in the green industry or you're in the chicken industry, like me, right? Like, whatever.
Jesus, chicken.
It's the hospitality industry. For those who don't know, I work at Chick-fil-A. So, but not a sponsor.
A pastor who works at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, not a sponsor. So, we are going.
Seems like you're double dipping,
right? We're gonna whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, we're gonna present ourselves to God and say, God, right, good or bad, I want to live well inside of these in Christ. So how am I going to do that? And that's a lot of what Paul talks about. Specifically, I'm thinking like Romans. He talks about like living in Christ. And we think about, how do we do this in Christ? Whatever we find ourselves doing, how do we do this in Christ? How do I, wholesale to customers? How do I, sell fast food to guests? How do I mow lawns for in Christ and do this to the best of my ability?
That's easy. You just make crosses all over the yard.
Oh, that's how you mow? Yeah. That's what we do to the chicken too. Yeah.
Stripe it so it looks like crosses.
Gosh, I'm sure your customers appreciate that.
More than you know. Only got fired by 3 people last week.